Don't take this the wrong way, but if you're watching this video, you're probably not a superstar. I mean, I think you're a superstar, but you shouldn't be acting like one. Harsh reality time. You're coming off as a bit of a... Okay, so today's video is all about how you should talk to your audience online and some of the ways you really shouldn't. Hey guys, if we haven't met before, my name's Joey Clarkson and I'm an independent singer-songwriter, voiceover artist, and audiobook narrator living in London, UK with my husband and our 2 Pomskis. I make videos just like this every week and I would love to have you along for the ride, so if this is your thing, please hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on. Alright, as previously mentioned, today we're going to be talking about all of the do's and don'ts of how you should talk to your audience online. A lot of independent artists really struggle with this, so I'm going to give you my 5 top tips on how you can help build a stronger connection with your audience without driving them away. And stick around to the end of the video, guys, because I'm going to be mentioning something that's really important for building a healthy relationship with your audience, and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, let's jump straight into this. Number 1, they're not your fans yet. They're your listeners, and you need to treat them that way. Just because they follow your social media profiles does not mean that they are your fans. It means they're interested in learning more about your brand and potentially engaging with it. If you call them your fans right away, it will potentially do more damage than good. You have to build that relationship, maintain it, and foster it, and then you might be able to call them your fan. But was calling people your fans ever really a cool thing to do? I feel like that's a rock star move, and we are past the age of rock stars and superstars. So from now on, I challenge you to stop addressing your fans as fans and start addressing them as listeners. 2. This is one of my favorite tips for people, and you've probably heard me talk about this before if we've ever talked about socials together, but you need to start thinking about your social media presence as going for a dinner date with somebody. If you went for a dinner date with somebody that you were meeting for the first time, and all they did was talk about themselves and ask you to do things for them and their business, you wouldn't want to go back to that dinner date because they didn't provide anything of value to you, and they weren't interested in anything that you were doing either. It's really important for you to treat your social media like a dinner date. You can't always be asking the person on the other side of the table to buy a ticket to your next show, to like a certain post on Facebook, to stream your new single and shout about it to all of their friends. It's okay to ask them to do those things, but you also have to provide them with value first. You need to start talking to your audience in a way that's not always directly related to making a conversion. You need to sit down across the table from them and acknowledge that it's not all about you. You need to start making the conversation about them too. That's how a good dinner date would run, and that's how a good relationship with your audience should be. 3. This tip is going to be building on the previous tip. You need to speak to your audience like they are your best friend. The most important part of this tip is that you would never just disappear and ghost your best friend. If you ghosted your best friend would rightfully be probably pretty annoyed. So, you cannot ghost your audience. You cannot disappear for months at a time and come back expecting them to care that you have a new release. Because if you don't care about them enough to show up for them at least on a bi-weekly basis, then why should they care when you provide them with new material? You have to care about your audience. Again, I'm really sorry to be the truth breaker here, but you're not a rock star, and those days are over anyways. So, stop acting like a rock star and start caring about your audience. Treat them like you would treat your best friend. And if you would ghost your best friend, maybe you should think about how you're treating the people in your life and assess whether or not that's appropriate behavior in that relationship as well. 4. Be honest with your audience. I feel like all of these points are really important, but this one is especially important. Your audience can smell fear. They know when you're not being honest with them and they don't appreciate it. It's okay to open up to your audience and tell them how you're really feeling about something. And in fact, I would venture to say that that's one of the most powerful things that you can do online. Your audience is there because they want to connect with you. So if you're only ever sharing the highs of your journey and not ever sharing the lows, you won't have as deep of a relationship with them as you could, and they won't feel as invested in your career as they could if you started sharing the things that concerned you and the days that you maybe didn't feel as much like yourself. Start being more honest with your audience. because you're gonna be able to build a much stronger relationship with them if you can just be honest with them. Again, that's a pretty good life tip in general, so like be honest with everybody in your life. I love being honest. Just be honest. All right, folks, we're at tip number 5. Not every audience member is going to be a paid audience member, and that doesn't mean that they're any less important than the people who financially support you. There are going to be people who buy every single release that you put out, and there are going to be people who don't, but support you in other ways. Not everybody is able to financially support every musician that they love. That's okay. That doesn't mean that they're any less valuable than the people who are paying for your music. It's really important for you to value somebody's time. And if they're taking their time to listen to you, to help share a message, to interact with your posts online, that is time, and their time is valuable. Just because they're not paying doesn't mean they're not important, and it doesn't mean that they should be ignored. Make sure you're still giving back to the people who are giving back to you in different ways. All right, guys, that was 5 tips on how you should speak to your audience online in 2020. As promised at the beginning of the video, I want to briefly mention something now that is really important that we're going to be talking about in detail in tomorrow's video. Boundaries. It's really important to set your boundaries, and I think that is true, again, in relationships, all relationships in your life. You need to know your boundaries and set your boundaries for your audience in order to have a healthy relationship with them. Thanks so much for sticking around, guys. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Watching to the end of videos does everything for small YouTubers. It is the best thing that you can do for them, so I really appreciate your time. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on, and I'll see you in the next video.